Hi, it's Cristina Chumillas and Sasha Eckenberger. We're here to explain you how we are working on the design system for the admin UI for Drupal. We're going to do a quick intro about the tool that we are using, Figma, a quick intro to the design system itself, another intro about how we are working on Claro and the workflow that we are following to create issues for Drupal.
So, hi everybody. I will quickly give you a short introduction in Figma. Figma is a tool we use to design the Drupal design system and the components for Claro. Figma is, in a nutshell, basically Sketch, but just like web-based. So you can use it in your browser, and it has a client for Mac, Windows, and Linux as well. So you can either use it in the web, directly in the browser, or download the tool accordingly. It also uses basically the same features as Sketch, if you're familiar with Sketch, but just it has more collaboration features, so multiple people can work on one document. And as you can see here in the demo, you can add comments and yeah, just have basically a nice design tool to work with. Good, so I'll now open Figma in the browser. As you can see here, I'm in the Drupal UX team, and the team has, you can see here an overview of all the different files we share. You can also see here on the right the members, so you can see other people. And let me quickly open the design system. So this is basically like the start page. When you get in the sidebar on the left, you can choose the page. So we're now going to design tokens, for example. And in here you have, as a designer, all the design tools available. So you can modify, edit, and just, like design stuff in here as you would in every other design tool like Sketch. No need to do more explanations on that. But if you're a developer and you get access to the file from, let's say, like from the issue queue in a ticket, you have a link to a design in Figma, and you will end up here. Then if you inspect stuff, so you can basically also inspect stuff. You can't move stuff, but you can inspect it. And here in the sidebar, you can go to code, and then you can already see like a preview of different elements. So if I zoom in here, then you can see this button, and you can see like basically the spacing between elements, sizings, like font sizes and stuff. So if we quickly here, you can see line height, font size, and so on. So that's basically like the inspection tool, where you can also choose different styles. You can have a more general view or like a pre-compiled CSS, but yeah, this might be more just like a small help and not like reusable code most of the time. So if we continue the example, I will quickly go here. So this is designed for range input. So this is one of the issues which is currently open. As you can see, we have the proposed resolution. So we usually do a screenshot in here. So you have a quick preview of the design element or the component. And in here, you have a link, which is this one here in the Figma component definition, which leads you to the Figma page, to the frame itself, so to the component itself, as you can see. So it opens Figma and just goes to the range slider input. And in here, as a developer, you can basically use the tools I showcased you before. So you can inspect and measure things, to easily work in the front end on this element. The documentation includes the anatomy, which is basically a short overview of all the different, you know, like stuff you need to know about this component. So it has a legend here, so you can see like the different, usually the different elements of a component. And then we have the design with all the different states, so like focus state, hover state, active state, and so on. And we have different variants. If there are different variants of a specific component, you can find them below the design. So a quick introduction into the design system. We are in the Drupal design system now. So this is the cover page when you access it. We have the design tokens and we have the final components. We'll first talk about the design tokens and then about the final components in just a bit. So in the design tokens, I think that this might be mostly interesting for designers, are basically all the base of the design system is defined here. So we have typography, which is defined here, like it has a definition, and we have H1 to H6, so basically all titles and all different paragraphs defined here. Also at the end, you can basically see a modular scale, how we scale the font in the design system. Then we have the colors. So these are the primary colors. We have the absolute zero blue, and then white, text, and smoke. We have secondary colors, which are different shades of gray, and we have a red and a green. And something which is currently in progress as the design system evolved over time and we added more and more different grays. So internally we call that 50 shades of gray. We're basically currently looking into streamline the different grays so we get a better gradient, as I would say. As you can see here on the left, so like these gray don't, you know, like go well together, and we're basically trying to solve that in experimenting with other grays. So that's something which is in progress currently. Then we have variations. So these are shades of the primary color, for example, of the blue. This is used for different states, as you can see here, for like hover, active, and a focus state, for example. And we have, as an example, we have main combinations here, as you can see, also with contrast ratios for accessibility. Yeah, so that's basically the color definition of the design system. Something which is on to do and which we will use most likely more in the future will be layers. So we have like a set 1, 2, and 3 layers. So we currently have 3 defined layers, but this is all still in to do. We need to take that into consideration, and you know, it will take some more time to come up with a system for layering the content and the elements in the end for the future. Spacing is another important topic. So here you can see we have different sizes, basically on a 4-pixel scale, and we named the sizes after t-shirt sizes. So we have XXS to XL. So these are the spacers, and they're used over the whole design system. You can also see them in the components, which we will have a look afterwards. Icons is quite easy. We have icons in 4 different sizes as well. Here, t-shirt sizes are used, S to XL. Some examples you can see here. They're all used over the design system where we used icons. I can also showcase that maybe later. And animation is something to be defined, which is currently not part of the implementation, but will be something to consider in the future. Okay, Let's move over to the final components. So this document here is organized by, like, the first part is form elements. So in here you have buttons, drop buttons, action links, fields, like text fields, text areas, drop downs, and so on. The second part is navigation. So everything which is related to navigation items you can find here in this section. Then the next section is layouts. So everything going in that direction towards layouts is here. And then we have the last one, which is basically others. So if it doesn't belong to one of the first three groups, then you will find it over here. Okay, let's take this input field as an example. So we have the anatomy of the field. So as you can see here, the field contains a label, the field itself, a value, a description. You can see that we have the spacings applied here between the different elements and also inside the elements, like the spacing. And you can see, like, the legend here, like the numbers according with the legend at the bottom. So basically you get a quick overview of what font is used, which size, which color, which is always corresponding to the design tokens we had a look earlier. And so this is basically a quick look of a component. And then when we scroll down, you can see different variants. So we have different size variants. So like a text input can have 3 different sizes. So the regular one, and then a smaller, and the even like an extra small version. So we have different versions here. And we also have the states. Like the form field can have different states. So we have like the regular fields, then with a placeholder. If it's basically filled, then a hover state, a focus state, and an error state. So all the different states, including disabled and required, and, you know, like just all the different states an element can have, or a component can have, you will find under states. And then inline styles are basically another variation of the field. Input is a special field which also can have like a prefix or a suffix. So you can also find these attributions here, as you can see here. So this is the definition for the prefix and suffix. And at the end, you find like basically like a quick specification, which we usually use to link into the ticket. So a developer has a quick overview of the component with all the different states.
Thank you, Sasha. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit around over the Claro document now. You might see that it has several pages. This one is called Components Hide Stable Blockers, and this one is Pages Hide Stable Blockers. It's a reference to the Claro stable blockers on the roadmap to make it stable for Drupal 9. Right now we are aiming to stabilize, to make Drupal, to make Claro stable for Drupal 9.1. That's what we are hoping to get. And as you can see here, this was the beta criteria. So that's why right now Claro is on Drupal core, but as experimental. And we need to make it stable. And those are all the components and features that we need to make. We need to finish to be sure that it reaches a level good enough to make it stable. So this is how the document is actually organized. So we have the components that need to be finished for having the stable. You can see the range input here that is in green. It means that it's already done. The tour, it already has some work, but needs some more work. Then we have here inline variations of form elements, for example. So those are independent components. Then we have the pages. Pages, it's because for Claro, sometimes it's much easier to work on the whole page instead of just working on small components. It doesn't mean that the page is not using existing components or components to theme the page. It means that we need to think on the whole page. For example, we have here the status report page, and then we have the extend, the modules page. This might be using the same components that the stable page was using, so that's work in progress. That's why we are separating that on several pages. It doesn't mean that they're not using components. Other examples here are, for example, the image styles, edit page, the installer. As you can see, we have several pages that have some work already in progress. It doesn't mean that you can jump in, just let us know and we'll let you know what needs some work. Then we have the medium priority. It means that they probably are not, this work probably is not stable blocker. So we are trying to focus on the things that we need to make Claro stable. And then we have other low priority components that also are being worked. And for example, here we can see the next generation for chips that probably is going to be used for tags, for example. I don't know, there's a lot of things that can be worked on. But right now we are trying to be focused on stable blockers. And now that we are here, it's a good example to show you what's the process that we are following. As you can see here, the person that was working on that left several tests in here. This is important because if we want to revisit, for example, the buttons, you will see that there's already some work done. We have this other document with all the explorations that we've been able to collect. And it is important because then you know why, for example, we have the messages in black. You can see why has the work done, what's the work done before that, or why the buttons have the color they have right now. This is important to have like a little bit of history. So if you want to work in your own document, feel free for doing that. Then at the end, just paste here the things that you're proposing. And then you can either just add a comment in here, like, hey, and this is what I'm working. And the ones that we usually work in this document will see a lot of comments here. We'll see when there is a new comment and we'll come here and review it. If you're working in the sprints for the design for Drupal, it might be more useful to just ping us on the Drupal Slack channel, admin UI design, or even on the admin UI. And we'll come in there, review it, maybe give you some feedback because, I don't know, this is Drupal and same component can appear on several places and maybe whoever is working on that haven't thought of that. So whatever is the feedback, and we do all the iterations over that component. Later on, the next step is usually just moving the component into the design system itself. We create a new page. You can see here the model one that is work in progress. And when we have this defined and done, then is when we jump into the issue queue. And we give the developers, you can either work on an existing issue or create a new one. It depends on what you're working on. We usually try to give as much information as we can in the issue summary. We usually follow the pattern that Drupal gives, which is defining a problem and the solution that we are proposing here. We usually try to give a screenshot and just an overview, and then a link to the Figma document here that you can just get to doing this, copying the link to the selected frame. And then just review whatever the developers posted in there. And this is basically it. If you have any question, just ping us on the Drupal Slack channels. We'll try to help you as much as we can. We'll post a list of issues that actually currently need work on the design side. So feel free to go through all the issues, see if there's something that you understand and feel comfortable. And otherwise, just ping us and we'll find an issue for you. Thank you.